Okay, hi everyone, welcome back to this video on Windows Server 2012. Using ntdsutil to manage application data partitions. The primary method by which system administrators create and manage application data partitions is through the ntdsutil command line tool. You can launch this tool simply by entering ntdsutil at the command prompt. The ntdsutil command is both interactive and context sensitive. That is, once you launch the utility, you'll see an ntdsutil command prompt. At this prompt, you can enter various commands that set your context within the application. For example, if you enter the domain management command, you'll be able to use the domain related commands. Several operations also require you to connect to a domain controller, or an Active Directory object before you perform a command. Table 3.3 describes the domain management commands supported by the ntdsutil tool. You can access this information by typing in the following sequence of commands at a command prompt: ntdsutil domain management help. Table 3.3 ntdsutil domain management commands. ntdsutil domain management command purpose help or question mark displays information about the commands that are available within the domain management menu of the ntdsutil command. Connection or connections allows you to connect to a specific domain controller. This will set the context for further operations that are performed on specific domain controllers. Create NC partition distinguished name DNS name creates a new application directory partition. Delete NC partition distinguished name removes an application data partition. List NC information partition distinguished name shows information about the specific application data partition. List NC replicas partition distinguished name returns information about all replicas for the specific application data partition. Pre-create partition distinguished name server DNS name pre-creates cross-reference application data partition objects. This allows the specified DNS server to host a copy of the application data. Remove NC replica partition distinguished name DC DNS name removes a replica from the specified domain controller. Select operation target, selects the naming context that will be used for other operations. And set NC reference domain partition distinguished name domain distinguished name specifies the reference domain for an application data partition. Set NCT replica notification delay partition distinguished name first DC notification delay other notifications delays. Defines settings for how often replication will occur for the specified application data partition. Figure 3.5 provides an example of working with ntdsutil. The following commands were entered to set the context for further operations. ntdsutil domain management connections connect to a server localhost, connect to a domain AD test quit list. Configuring DNS integration with Active Directory. There are many benefits to integrating Active Directory and DNS services. You can configure and manage replication along with other Active Directory components. You can automate much of the maintenance of DNS resource records through the use of dynamic updates. You will be able to set specific security options on the various properties of the DNS service. Exercise 3.6 shows the steps that you must take to ensure that these integration features are enabled. You'll look at the various DNS functions that are specific to interoperability with Active Directory. Before you begin this exercise, make sure that the local machine is configured as an Active Directory domain controller and that DNS services have been properly configured. If you instructed the Active Directory installation wizard to configure DNS automatically, many of the settings mentioned in this section may already be enabled. However, you should verify the configuration and be familiar with how the options can be set manually. Exercise 3.6. Configuring DNS integration with Active Directory. 1. Open Administrative Tools by pressing the Windows key and choosing Administrative Tools. 2. Open the DNS snap-in and from the Administrative Tools program group. 3. Right-click the icon for the local DNS server and select Properties. Click the Security tab. Notice that you can now specify which users and groups have access to modify the configuration of the DNS server. Make any necessary changes and click OK. 4. Click the local server branch and the forward lookup zones folder. 5. Right-click the name of the Active Directory domain you created, select Properties. 6. On the General tab, verify that the type is Active Directory integrated and that the data is stored in Active Directory message is displayed. If this option is not currently selected, you can change it by clicking the Change button next to Type and choosing the Store the Zone in Active Directory checkbox on the bottom. 7. Verify that the Dynamic Updates option is set to secure only. This ensures that all updates to DNS and to DNS resource records database are made through authenticated Active Directory accounts and process. 8. Finally, notice that you can define the security permissions at the zone level by clicking the Security tab. Make any necessary changes, click OK. Summary. This chapter covered the basics of implementing an Active Directory forest and domain structure, creating and configuring application data partitions, and setting the functional level of your domain and forest. You are now familiar with how you can implement Active Directory. We carefully examined all of the necessary steps and conditions that you need to follow to install Active Directory on your network. First, you need to prepare for the domain name system, because Active Directory cannot be installed without the support of a DNS server. You also need to verify that the computer you upgrade to a domain controller meets some basic file system and network connectivity requirements so that Active Directory can run smooth and efficiently in your organization. These are some of the most common things you will have to do when you deploy Active Directory. This chapter also covered the concept of domain function levels, which essentially determine what kind of domain controllers you can use in your environment. For instance, in the Windows 2003 functional level, you can include Windows Server 2012 or 2, Windows Server 2012, Windows Server 2008 or 2, Windows Server 2008, and Windows Server 2003 domain controllers, but the functionality of the domain is severely limited. In this chapter, you also learned how to install Active Directory, which you accomplish by promoting a Windows 2012 computer to a domain controller using Server Manager. You also learned how to verify the installation by testing Active Directory from a client computer. This chapter was limited in scope to examining the issues related to installing and configuring the first domain in an Active Directory environment. In later chapters, you'll see how to create and manage more complex configurations. So I'm going to leave it here today for this video. If you like listening, please consider like, sharing, and subscribing. Thank you.